Hey, what's going on, everybody? So this is the weekend prep going into the week of March 15th. And so we'll just kind of run through everything. I'm just seeing everything with you here for the first time, so we'll just kind of see what we see. So first thing I like to do is always just look at the news that's coming up. And so as you can see, there's lots of red happening here. And so we can kind of talk about that, but it's all really related to oil, Iran crisis and all that. So that is definitely escalating. I think I saw tweets this morning that Russia will be providing aid to Iran, or already has. So that is, just makes things more complicated. And then there was a tweet where Trump is urging, I guess, other countries to get warships into that Strait of Hormuz, I think. And so things look to be escalating a bit. So doesn't necessarily bode well for the markets. So we shall see. But I guess things that are coming up. So we got industrial production kind of reporting on Monday. We have home sales on Tuesday, PPI and core PPI and oil. Oh, and there's a rate decision on May 18th. So that is definitely something to kind of pay attention to. Yeah, I need to look into that a bit more. So that is definitely a big thing that we're looking at. And then you got jobless claims to kind of close out the week. So yeah, going into, so I guess like now with all the war stuff and then with the rate decision and stuff, I guess the expectation is there's no change. And maybe with the war, there is no change. And also I think we changed the Fed chair, or we're about to. I need to confirm that. So yeah, expectation is there's no change unless Trump does something interesting, I guess, with his new appointee for the Fed that does change it to kind of offset what's going on with the war. I suppose that's a possibility. So that is something that I will be looking into, but that is, I think, the market is looking forward to that for sure. So we'll just see what happens there. And then we got Baba earnings, which I feel like this has been pushed back a couple times, but this is happening next week. And then also FedEx as well on the 19th. Oh, and we got, that's happening also on the 18th. So there's a lot happening. So I guess those are things to be looking into. So next week should be eventful, even outside of the war. So there is that. I guess if we want to look at how prices are forming here. So this is my ATASX, or ATASX, sorry. And so I guess one interesting thing I noticed when I pull up the charts just for Friday's price action across the Qs, ES, and gold, like you can kind of see the daily on top, and we'll zoom in a bit more. But what's interesting for me is they're basically all going down, right? So you got NQ gap down, went. You got ES tried to push up and it gapped up and then it broke and it went, or no, we broke up on NQ here. I'm zoomed on wrong. So we gapped up and then we broke down, gapped up, broke down, gold, gapped up, broke down, right? And what's interesting for me is that gold kept going lower like equities, right? And, usually when you see like gold going down, when things are normal, I guess, like 60% chance ES and Q would go up, but now we're all going down kind of at the same clip, at least on Friday. So that is interesting. And so we'll just kind of see, like I've seen social media posts that like maybe there's a gap down on Monday and all this. I feel like that's probable given everything. So we shall see. And then when we look at, just a daily chart across, right? For gold, like breaking lower, broke all this support here from earlier in the month. So that is a tell for sure. NQ printed that low. Same thing with ES, but we're just breaking lower. And you kind of zoom out, like ES is doing like a nice turn, like a nice cup type pattern situation, right? But nice turn there. And NQ is more in this range that it needs to break out of, but it does look a little bit more heavy. So we just have to see if the support level 6500s and then also 2400s holds for the NQ and ES, but it's not good that gold is starting to break. So let's look at that 5,000 level and just see how that holds up. So that is just interesting to kind of watch. And then when you look at For Friday, we were more bearish on the futures, more bullish on the ETF as far as the volume. For ES, more bearish on the futures, also more bearish on the ETF. So there's agreement there, which kind of signals maybe more downside going into next week. And in gold, a lot more buying on the ETF, but more selling on the futures. So we'll just kind of see how that kind of plays out there. VIX is pushing back up after that spike, so we'll see. And then we got the YM just breaking down. So if there was any rotation into more defensive type stuff, they're breaking down and not rotating into that. So that is interesting. And then for your RTY, so penny stocks, breaking down. So yeah, I mean, YM's clearly breaking down, RTY is clearly breaking down, SPY is breaking down, NQ is in this range, and gold is breaking down. So, you know, like, you can't fight that. So we'll see how things look. Doesn't bode well, and VIX is pushing up. So that is interesting. I guess we can kind of look at how options look like for all of these. All right, so for the Qs, mixed. I mean, a lot of buying on the volume side. They're mostly bearish, but like mixed on the options flow. Interesting, more calls on SPY, kind of close out the week. So that goes against what we were seeing in volume. Gold, more put volume here. You know, a lot of buying here, and we broke down, so they were wrong for sure. VIX, a little bit mixed, but I think we're expecting more upside, so there you go. More bearish on the holdings for Friday for Qs and for SPY. So that is an interesting tell. I think more bearish and muted on Dow on the ETF. And then on the RTY ETF, a little bit more mixed, but a little bit more, it's more mixed on the options flow. So I guess the only thing that really stands out for me is a big call volume action on the SPY here going into Friday, which is counter to kind of other things that we're seeing. So that is interesting. So I guess we'll just kind of see what that looks like there. All right, so then we'll look at what's going on with our top 8. So yeah, I put all this into ATASX. Still trying to figure out how to kind of space everything correctly, but we'll just kind of look at it as it is here. So we got NVIDIA still holding up in the range, so maybe that's the reason why the Qs are still looking like that. But more, I guess, more selling towards the end of the week. Apple holding up, but more selling towards the end of the week. Kind of was holding up. It actually broke, I guess, this trend line if you were into that. So maybe it is kind of bearish there. So we'll see if we can, how we handle this support. Microsoft, a lot more selling, and we're just down. Like, you know, it tried to kind of bounce up, but we closed that gap. We're just hanging out here. We have to see if this holds a support or if we keep breaking. So that seems a little bit bearish. What is this? Broadcom trying to hold in this range. It looks a bit more sideways to me. Amazon, like, we tried to push up, close that first gap just barely, and then now we're breaking down. So I think maybe there's more weakness ahead. So where are we going to go? I mean, there's this gap that it tried to close. Are we going to fully close it? Getting all the way down to like this 193. There has been more buying though in the week, but then more selling to close the week. So we'll just see how that goes. Tesla just hanging out here in this level, this 381. So that is a strong support level still. And so we'll just see. It did test it last week and it bounced back up. Let's see if that loses that. I think that is going to be the big tell for NQ. And the SPY really. So we'll see. But then also NVIDIA too, this like 170s level. Meta just breaking down, man. Yeah, we had that gap up, I think, on earnings, and we just been breaking down, gap down here. Like we're testing like this, making a trend line, testing this trend line. I think we're, yeah, we look kind of weak. And there's another gap here, all the way down to 560. That, you know, if we break that low, we break this low, I feel like we're going to this 560. So we shall see. And then for Google, Yeah, Google was so strong for so long. Now we have broken down here. We've broken this support back in December. So I feel like maybe next, and let's see, that 293 held. So if that breaks, you know, we're going to go 278s, 270s. So we'll see, but more selling. So I feel like just looking at this, nothing looks really bullish. Everything looks more like trying to hold up or breaking down. So that is not a good sign. Yeah, not really a good sign. The only like real strong name is Nvidia, because it's not breaking down. It is holding up pretty strong, but everything else is kind of breaking down a little bit, or a lot of bit. Apple, I guess, you know, maybe Apple, I guess if it's above 244, you could say it's similar to Nvidia. So we'll give it that. And then also maybe Tesla, right? If we stay above this 380. So these are the ones that are holding us up, I think. Microsoft's breaking down. Maybe Broadcom kind of holding us up, but is breaking down a bit. Amazon's breaking down. Meta is breaking down. Google, you know, it broke that 298. So, you know, yeah, it feels more like they're trying to hold up, but nobody's leading us up. So, and with the war and everything, it feels a little bit more bearish. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. If we look at the options flow for these, so we got Nvidia, a lot more selling on the volume delta, a lot more calls on Thursday. It's a little bit mixed, it seems like. Apple more clear bearish, right? Like all the puts there, and then the volume is bearish, so that is a good tell. Muted on options flow, I think, but a little bit more bearish on volume from Microsoft. More bearish on volume, muted on options flow, but we are going down on Broadcom. Amazon looks mixed. I mean, it looks mixed. I mean, there's more bearishness on Thursday, but it looks mixed to me. Mixed, but bearish. Well, mixed on Tesla, more or less. More bearish on Meta. Yeah, for sure, more bearish on Meta. Google, we really tried to push up on Thursday, but now we're kind of muted. A little bit more bearish tilt. So yeah, Nvidia more bearish on the volume, so that's not good. Apple more bearish on the calls. Meta more bearish. There's not really strong bullish activity on options for the top 8, so that's not ideal. So there you go. And then we'll look at sectors here really quick. All right, so we got our sectors. So tech, we're holding up. Financials kind of breaking down a little bit. We got XLY. What is this? Discretionary spending. So it's kind of, is this discretionary? I always forget. And then we got energy. Yeah, XLY is discretionary. So we'll see if that holds, this 110. But it's kind of breaking down. Energy's picking back up, which I guess makes sense with the oil stuff. All right, so XLV is healthcare. I'll have to fix that later. So it looks like holding up, kind of breaking down there. Industrials breaking down, continues to break down. Forget what XLP is. I think this is staples. Yeah, gapping down, breaking down. So we are rotating out of this. XLU, utilities. So now it's kind of pushing back up. So it's like natural gas and all that. So it's kind of interesting. Cool. So that's what things look like here on the sectors. And if we go quick to metals and macro, we'll kind of skip the options there. So we got the dollar, which is dollar index, which is kind of increasing. So I guess that's good. Well, and then we got the treasury yields, which is breaking down. Bitcoin hitting 64. So I'm still waiting for like 50s and 30s. So we'll just kind of see how that pans out. Yeah, so that's just going down with everything else. We got oil, which is going up. And then we got, so for silver, I was expecting us to get to this 106 level and then break down. Didn't quite get there quite yet. But it looks like maybe we're retesting this kind of trend line situation. But if we break down, maybe we go. So we'll see. platinum testing the support level at 1544. So we'll see. We got copper 5600s, and then we got gold. So I mean, like, they, you know, metals are holding up, but they don't look super strong, you know. And you know, you would expect them, well, I mean, I guess because everybody's rotating into oil as kind of what it is, so that spiked pretty crazily the other day. So yeah, we'll just see how that works. Maybe everybody is rotating into oil and all the stuff related to that. So that could be what's going on. I guess for what I trade, it looks like bearishness is the way. That's kind of my takeaway from all this. To close this out, we'll look at how everything looked on Friday as like daily price action and short term. Super bearish across the board. But I guess it looks like Bitcoin and crude oil were kind of the winners at near term price action, but everything else was down. Like even the top 8 equities, shit, like red across the board, that's down. And that's bad for NQ and SPY. Energy obviously is the strongest sector, and then utilities was kind of up, which we saw. Yeah, so I mean, that is... So, and I guess the interesting tell for me is like NQ, ES, and gold, super bearish, right? And so that means we have some agreement to the downside. So I think we should expect a little bit more downside next week. Cool. Well, hopefully that is helpful. All right. Well, thanks for your time. Good luck, and don't get caught.